Welcome to the Outer Realm with MicheleDerocher and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM from beautiful New Orleans. We're fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey for the last 5 years, and we're looking forward to a nice long relationship with them moving forward. Thank you, Folgers. We could not do it without you, nor would we want to. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for the contribution of his time, his music, and his voice for the intro that you just heard. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite music streaming platforms. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind all of our logos here at the Outer Realm. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in the horror genre, but does phenomenal commission pieces of any type. Tonight, I'm really looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to this for a while. You know, you get into synchronicities, and I was just talking to our guest about this earlier, and I was reading an article in the National Geographic about dinosaur sightings in the Congo and how there's this influx of sightings. I'm going, oh, that's amazing. And all of a sudden, you know, I'm just scrolling through one of my social media feeds, and there he is with this brand new, amazing book cover. And it's like, what? Oh my God. Yes, yes, and yes. So, of course, I reached out right away. And the guest, of course, is Ben Tejada-Ingram, Mysteries of Kurupira. I apparently got that right. Anyway, The Hidden Land of Unknown Creatures, which inspired Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Lost World. And we know they're out there. Everybody's got one of these now. People are talking about it. You can't just hide it anymore. It's a thing. And the fact that this is a researched thing to me is outstanding. So without further ado, we're going to welcome Ben to the show. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you very, very much for having me on the show. I am really thrilled to be here tonight.
Oh, my goodness. The pleasure is all mine. Believe me, I have been really looking forward to this. And this is your amazing book cover. I love this book cover.
Well, thank you. Yes, if I have the real painting right here.
Wow.
It's a lot of work into it. Shout out to my mom. She's an artist. She painted it custom for me. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Awesome. Yay, Mom. Great job.
Yeah.
This is wonderful. Oh, yeah. This is beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
You have written, you've researched and written a few books on this. So I guess where I'd like to start is going back to sort of humble beginnings with respect to what drew you to want to research this and write about it, especially.
Yeah. So to begin with, to where it all began for me, it was back in 2006. I was a teenager, and I came across this really interesting article online. It was actually a post on a Google Earth forum called "Dinosaurs Are Alive in the Lost World," and I clicked on that, and it's by this Venezuelan archaeologist who I now know is a very serious academic credentialed archaeologist named Jose Miguel Perez Gomez.
Yes.
And this article is about this place in Venezuela called the Ayantepoy, which is actually where Angel Falls is located, which is the highest waterfall in the world.
Yes.
And
yes.
Yeah, it's incredible. And Jose Miguel Perez Gomez, he is also an avid explorer, outdoorsman. And he
Mm-hmm.
said like he's been in this area, but it's very hard to get to. It's very remote and isolated. But
Right.
he met a hermit living along one of these little rivers, and
Yeah.
the hermit, he befriended them, and the hermit eventually showed him some very strange pictures of a strange looking little creature. And Jose Miguel Perez Gomez thought to himself, this thing shouldn't really exist. It's a extinct plesiosaur. And
Yeah.
the hermit was like,
Yeah.
oh, I've seen them up on the top of the mountain. And we're talking about a table mountain, by the way. This isn't like a normal
Yeah.
mountain. This is one of those
Flat joggers.
giant cliffs on all sides, and it's pretty flat on the top, so it's really hard to like get up and get down from this place. And
Yeah.
Jose Miguel Perez Gomez, this is actually what my first book was all about. He basically says he investigated and he took a helicopter up there, camped out on this plateau for 5 days, and eventually he had a sighting of this thing also. And
Wow.
so yeah, that's basically what book one was all about. And
Yeah.
that book is basically about all the background, all the people involved, all the sightings of that
Mm-hmm.
particular. I like to call it Little Nessie because it's
Little
kind of
messy.
like a
Yeah.
plesiosaur. They describe it, but it's like
Yes.
small.
Yes.
It's about
Yes.
3 feet. So yeah, that's
Wow.
basically what started me into looking at these types of places and these types of cryptids. Yeah.
I can understand that because I think it's I mean I don't want to be stereotypical because little girls like dinosaurs too. I had two sons, both loved dinosaurs. It's like a little boy thing. It's taken to an adulthood. Yeah, dinosaurs.
Yes.
And to find out that you know these these I guess animals, these beings are just still around. I mean, you see it with fish. There's like fish that they have found and pulled up in nets, not just a plesiosaurus type, but like
Um.
fish that are
Yes.
still kicking around.
That's the coelacanth. Those are what's known as a Lazarus species, which means a species from way, way back in the fossil record that should be extinct.
Yes.
Um, Another
Yes.
one is called the bush dog. That's a thing in South America that they thought was extinct for millions of years, and turns out they're just still around, still the same as they were back then. So yeah, it's interesting to know that those are real, and
Yeah.
also that there's places out there that are so isolated, cut off from the outside world,
Hmm.
and basically the perfect place out there for something like this to exist, and not
Hmm.
too many people to know about it.
So how do they go unnoticed? I mean, I totally get, really dense forests with really heavy, tall canopies, and there are cave systems that have been even explored. But little dinosaurs. But some of these that are popping up are fair size. I mean, you can't miss them.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
you
no,
see.
you you can't. They don't go completely unnoticed. This is the thing, yeah. But you're
Yes.
absolutely right. These places are so remote and isolated. That's probably the main factor, which
Hmm.
keeps like a lot of the indigenous population knows all about them. They don't even consider them anything strange. To them, it's just another creature, But it's only when one of us Western-faced people comes in and is like, "Wait a minute,
This
this
isn't
is something
right.
that shouldn't be here."
Yes. But I guess who are we to say that they're not? So let's talk about this location then for now, and then we can sort of branch off. So, what led you to this specific, like to write this book? There's a
Yeah.
lot
All
of,
right. So
yeah.
thank you. So this book, The Mysteries of Kurupira, something I learned when I was researching my first book is that there's the big famous tepuis, plateaus in South America, mainly in Venezuela, Brazil, and Guyana.
Yes.
But there's over 100 of these things, and there's a couple of that are really famous that have been explored. But there's over 100, and most of them are still completely unknown and, well, known about, but are unexplored. So that's really something you gotta bear in mind. Most of these places people haven't even been to. But in regards to Kurupira, it was kind of a funny story. So one day, a couple of years ago, I received a message online, and the message is from one of my followers. And I'll just read it to you real fast.
Yeah,
said,
please.
Hello, Ben. It says, hello, Ben. First of all, I have read your book about Little Nessie and I loved it. Congratulations for the awesome book. Do you know that apparently there's another tepoi or plateau with dinosaurs in South America? This tepoi is called Kurupira by the natives, and it's believed to be home to 3 dinosaurs: the Stoa, which is a Carnotaurus, the Sua, which is a sauropod, and the Washo Riwe, which is a pterodactyl. And then he says, I will leave the link here to this article about it. And then he goes on to say, I am Brazilian, but I have never heard of this place or the creatures in it. And seeing as you are a good researcher, I thought if you can discover more things about it, maybe you can contact Perez Gomez again and sees if he knows anything about it. All the best, João Marcos.
Wow.
And so that...
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
I got that message and immediately I just stopped whatever I was doing and I was like, wait a minute. You're telling me there's another plateau with even more dinosaurs. How do I not know about this? Like, this should be something that, like, everyone who's into this knows about, and I shouldn't be the one to know, especially seeing as how I've researched. But I had never heard of this before.
Yeah.
So I clicked on the little link he sent me, and it took me to the blog of a cryptozoologist named Carl Schuker. Is very kind of scientifically and academically minded. And Carl Schuker, right off the bat, he says something really strange. He says, this place, Kurupira, was actually the true inspiration to the novel The Lost World by Arthur Conan Doyle.
Wow.
And I thought that was very strange because I have never heard of a Kurupira before. And so I kind of read the article, and it details about a Czechoslovakian cryptozoologist named Jaroslav Mares. And Jaroslav Mares wrote some books about Kurupira, and the most recent one was in 2006. And Jaroslav Mares actually went there himself in 1978. But his books have never been translated, which is maybe part of the reason why people don't know about it a little more. And the very strange thing about it was I was thinking, okay, so where is this plateau? Where is this mountain, Kurupira? I want to find it on the map. But I very quickly realized, reading through some of the comments and whatnot, and Carl Schuker's article, that no one really actually knew where this place was. And more than that, no one could even really agree if it was real or not. Like, there seemed to be absolutely no place called Kurupira that existed in the world. And Carl Schuker, he says, it was actually, the names were changed and it was removed from all the maps around the year 1960. So yeah, that's my first introduction to the subject, and that's kind of what I set out to do, and what eventually became this book is I wanted to know, can I find Kurupira? Is it real? And can I find any other sources that can talk about some of these really, really incredible creatures that were reported to exist there? And so, yeah, that's what it's all about, basically.
Well, I
Oh,
mean, from what I researched, I mean, there were sightings into the 19th century as early as 1921, I think, into the 20s, 30s, something along those lines, and I'm sure even to this day. So, do you think that
yes.
Kurupira more of an indigenous name, or was it actually on a map at one time as Kurupira?
Yes to both of those questions. so,
Uh,
Kurupira, when you look up the word, it's usually actually spelled with a C. And
okay.
when you look that word up, it refers to a Brazilian mythological entity, sometimes referred to as the demon of the forest. This is said to be a small, sometimes humanoid creature that
Huh.
will attack people, but really what it's out there doing is protecting the forest. It's kind of like the forest guardian.
Hmm.
And it's really interesting because the thing that most people don't know is that Kurupira actually has the Kurupira has a home. It refers to this one specific place in the Amazon rainforest where the Kurupira lives. And so the reason we kind of are clued into this is because when Arthur Conan Doyle, the famous novelist, wrote his novel The Lost World,
Hmm.
that novel is basically about a group of explorers who go and discover a plateau in the jungle with a whole bunch of prehistoric creatures and dinosaurs living on it.
Mm.
But when you really start to analyze that novel, which is something I've been doing, you can see that he actually secretly encoded a bunch of clues as to where this place really could be. And he actually mentions the Kurupira by name, which is pretty crazy. He actually calls it the Kurupuri, but it's
Hmm.
right there, right at the beginning. They're
Hmm.
talking about where to go, and it's like all the tribes, they say, agree on where the Kurupuri is. It's something
Hmm.
dangerous. It's the forest protector,
Hmm.
but it has a specific home, and that's where they go. And so the way that well, actually, Yaroslav Mores proposed that Arthur Conan Doyle knew about this was in 1911, the year before he publishes his book, he meets with another explorer named Percy Fawcett.
Yeah.
And Percy Fawcett, for those of you who don't know the name, if you look up the movie The Lost City of Z, fantastic movie,
Hmm.
Percy Fawcett was an English explorer who had spent many, many, many years exploring the Amazon jungle, and he was specifically looking for this lost civilization that he thought was out
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
But along the way, he had to have learned about Kurupira as well,
Hmm.
and the creatures that were supposed to live there, because this was apparently very well-known folklore. Percy Fawcett definitely spent a lot of time interacting with the indigenous people there and learning everything they knew. So,
Yeah, because he was pretty famous for what he did in the
oh yes,
Amazon area, wasn't he? Yeah.
yeah. And so a lot of people like will say, "Well, Percy Fawcett didn't go to Kurupira. He didn't write about it." And that's true. He didn't
Mhm.
go there because he was too obsessed with finding his city of Z.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean he didn't
Yes.
know about it.
Right.
And so what I think happened was Arthur Conan Doyle wanted this real information about this place where he could base his novel off of.
Hmm.
But Percy Fawcett must have told Arthur Conan Doyle, you can't actually tell people this is a real thing because
Right.
I want to discover it, is my theory. Percy Fawcett
Hmm.
probably, he didn't want to give it all away because he wanted to be the one to discover this place, to discover everything about
Hmm.
it. So he
Hmm.
probably told Arthur Conan Doyle, look, you can write the book, but you
Hmm.
have to change the names and you have to kind of
Hmm.
change the landmarks. You cannot explicitly reveal where
Hmm.
this place is. And what I think happened is Arthur Conan Doyle basically said, okay, challenge accepted. and he
Yeah.
subtly,
Yes.
encodes all the details in there, as well as he actually uses, excuse me, the name of Kurupira, as well as the Stoa, which is this guy right here. And
Yes.
Stoa refers to the kind of T-Rex like with horns, but
Hmm.
creature that is reported to exist there. So
Yes.
yes,
They always leave codes. Like, they always leave different clues in there for people to find. And I think a lot of authors and filmmakers do that.
yes, yes. It's something that it happens all the time. And if
Mm,
you think about Arthur Conan Doyle, he was the creator of Sherlock Holmes.
yeah.
So he definitely loved these kind of like codes and clues and mysteries. So
And he'd be the guy that
yeah,
would know how to do that, right?
exactly.
He'd know how to
Yes,
hide that.
he was a genius for sure. Yeah,
Hmm.
he definitely knew all about it. And he even what's really fascinating is he even left a map, and the map in his book shows how to get there, but it says the orientation has been changed and the scale has been changed. We're not going to say what those are, but I actually was able to align his map over the real life Google Earth, and it's
Ooh.
like pretty much a perfect match once you rotate it, because that was his
Hmm.
main thing, was that it's not oriented to true north. But once
Hmm.
you flip it like 90 degrees, it's basically a perfect match, and
Hmm.
yeah, it leads to
Hmm.
Kurupira.
Yes. 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 No, I
um,
love that. If you look at pterodactyls, for example, you have Native American people or different indigenous people in the Americas that they call it the Thunderbird, but they've been having sightings of that specific, uh, I guess dinosaur era cryptid, as we call them nowadays. But they've been doing this right into modern times. I think even what is it, Theodore Roosevelt, who was an avid hunter and anything mysterious, he liked to go out and seek it out. And again, known as the Thunderbird, but this was something that still gets seen. So that's in the skies. So how are they hiding? I mean, we see things in the water, pulling them
yeah,
up in nets. We have different lake monsters, and I
yes.
just hate having to say monster, but that's what they call them. So lake cryptids. So how do you think? I mean, we'll back up just one quick minute to Loch Ness, since you mentioned Little Nessie.
Yeah.
They've shown that there's no way that something this size could dwell in the loch. So if that's
hmm
the case, where is it going? How is it getting in and out? Because I don't even think there's a way to the ocean there.
Well, if you're asking about Loch Ness in particular,
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure about Loch Ness, to be honest. I do think there's Champ in Lake Champlain is
Yes. Yeah.
probably a
Ogopogo.
lot more likely to exist, which is
Yes.
pretty similar. And
Yes.
I don't know how it stays hidden, though. That's
Yes.
really an interesting question. But with
Mm.
Champ, they found the sonar recordings of it, and they've heard it
Yes.
basically doing the clicking echolocation, which is
Hmm.
pretty interesting. But
Yes.
with regards to like Kurupira, which is supposed to
Yes.
be all this stuff, the reason why it is people don't know what's there is because I have it on very, very good authority that Kurupira is on military lockdown. It's located right on the border of
Of course it
Brazil
is.
and Venezuela.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
That. Hmm.
the Venezuelans, I interviewed a doctor who went there. And
Hmm.
this doctor is like, it's completely locked down. You have to get a special permit from the government. And the only reason why this doctor was able to go there was because he was on this kind of like humanitarian mission to provide basic medical aid and inoculations to it's called the Yanomami tribe of people who live there.
Hmm.
And he said what's really interesting is this doctor also said they told me stories of giant creatures that roam the jungle at Kurupira.
Mhm.
And these creatures are so big that they compare them to whales or hippopotamuses, which
Yes.
should not, neither of those things, obviously. Well,
Yes.
whales is strange. And
Mhm.
hippopotamus is from Africa. That's not even supposed to exist in South
Mhm.
America. So
Mhm.
that was kind of like my exclusive source that was really able to confirm
Mhm.
that even up to this day, the people who are living in this isolated military lockdown zone. It's
Mhm.
by the way, I'm talking a huge area, hundreds of miles, like an entire national park. And
Mhm.
on the Brazilian side, it's a reservation from the Yanomami tribe, so they don't let anyone in there.
Mhm.
So yeah, this whole place is basically on lockdown.
Mhm.
So really, no one, for probably aside from this doctor that I found, is the only person who's been allowed in there for the last probably 30 years at least. So
See, to me, that's crazy, but not surprising because whenever there are areas that have, you know, pretty much gotten as close to being proven as it can be proven, you know that military is involved. You know that they guard it, heavy guard, and there's going to be a base somewhere, and they're keeping an eye on things and either trying to duplicate, you know, or
yeah,
just keep it for themselves. So that's not a surprise.
well, it is kind of a little bit of a conspiracy. Yaroslav Mores, he believed that there was a secret military base there. And don't let me forget to, I want to tell you the stories of the encounters with the pterodactyl, as
Yes.
well as some very strange alien like creatures. But if you don't mind, first I would like to tell you a little bit more about Yaroslav Mores and what he experienced.
Yes,
Because
please.
my book, basically, it's a follow up. I consider it to be a follow up to his book
Okay. There we
and
go.
to his work. You know, he
Yes.
was a great person who was really the whole pioneer of this whole thing. And
Mhm.
what happened with him is he worked for Czechoslovakian Airlines, and
Mhm.
part of his job he would go to these countries and places and try to open up new places for the airline. And
Mhm.
so he was in Brazil in the 1960s,
Mhm.
and he was out at a bar one night, and he is hearing this some people in the bar telling what sounds like a little bit of tall tales.
Mhm.
And so there's this guy who says he's a fur trapper, who's this old guy with an eye patch. You can tell he's lived out there. He looks very, you can just see that he's lived out in the jungle for most of his life. And this guy was telling a very strange story. And he says he was out there in the Amazonian jungle, in the outback of the jungle, and he runs into a stranger. And the stranger was from Venezuela, and he said he was a military defector fleeing from Venezuela. And this guy was terrified. He was out of his mind. He says, I was with a group of 10 people originally, and we were all fleeing the country. And we decided to camp upon this mountain right on the border, which you're probably going to guess was Kurupira.
Yeah.
And they're camping up on this mountain. They don't know it, though, where they are in particular. And the leader of the defectors, he says to this guy, go and scout ahead, like scout the terrain, and the rest of us are going to make camp here for the night. And
Mm.
so this guy, he goes out and scouts a little bit. And when he comes back, everyone is dead. It's kind of like as if everyone had been running, something had happened, and they all just took off, but there are no injuries on them. And so, this,
Wow. That's
this guy,
nuts.
he's kind of freaked out, and
Mm.
at that point, he just basically runs for it. until he meets the fur trapper. And the fur trapper, he's like, "Which way did you come from?" And he points in the direction. And he says, "Well, you were on this place we call Kurupira, and it's just like the Conan Doyle novel. Everyone knows to avoid this place. This is where the demon of the forest resides, and all the tribes, even the Waka tribe, which this is their territory. They are renowned as the most fearsome warriors in all of the Amazon jungle. These guys are afraid. These guys do not mess with it at all whatsoever. Like, they just completely avoid it. So this is Yaroslav Mores's first introduction to it. And he kind of like thinks, "Oh, where have I heard this word before? Oh, right, I've heard this word in The Lost World by Arthur Conan Doyle." So his next step is he kind of like looks on some maps. He's trying to like find, is this actually a real place? And he does find eventually, yeah, it is on some maps, but only older maps. On all the modern maps, it's been renamed. They've given it a few different names in current modern day maps.
Yes.
So, excuse me. So that's kind of it for him. That becomes his obsession, basically. And he's like, "Oh my God, I have to go here and find out like what this place is really like."
How do you know? It's like a challenge.
Yes. So yeah, in 1978 is when he goes on an expedition.
Wow.
By the way, this is like one of the most. This is what the first part of his book is about, and it's just kind of, to me, the most crazy, dangerous thing anyone could possibly do. You're talking about going out weeks and weeks into the middle of the Amazon rainforest. There's been so many things that could have killed him and that do nearly kill him while he's there. But eventually, yeah, he does make it there. And he's with a couple other guys, but they cannot find the way up. And they do get like a strange sense they're being watched the whole time. And they do explore some strange caves. And they eventually make it out of there alive. And this is Yaroslav Mores's first book, in which he publishes after his expedition. Excuse me. And then in, I want to say around the year 2000, he publishes his second book when he happens to meet another person who doesn't want to reveal his real name. But this other guy is named, his fake name is Reginald Riggs, is what they call him. And this other guy had actually spent a whole lot of time living right there at this place, Kurupira. And this guy's story, Reginald Riggs, he kept this amazing diary of his whole life, basically, and all of his crazy experiences while he lived there for many years. So Reginald Riggs, he is actually from Scotland, and he comes to the Amazon rainforest at a young age, and he has a bunch of crazy odd jobs as like a orchid hunter, a trader on a riverboat. And eventually, like, some stuff goes very, very bad for him. He loses everything. All of his companions are killed. All their belongings are stolen. And this is when Reginald Riggs kind of falls into a life of crime. And he joins up with a group of what are known as Garimpiros, which are illegal gold miners. And these guys are, it's actually a very, very terrible and rampant problem these days, because these Garimpiros will basically kill anyone who finds their camps.
Oh boy.
And they will kill basically all the native tribes they come into contact with, which is a very, very serious problem even to this day, which is why I kind of recommend people stay away from this area.
Right.
But so eventually, Reginald Riggs is out there for many, many years, searching for gold, searching for gems, And eventually, all of his companions, they kind of go their separate ways. And Reginald Riggs thinks, what is the one place I want to check out that I've never been? Because everyone I know is too superstitious.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he says, oh, Kurupira is the place. So he decides to go there. And when he gets there, he basically immediately strikes it rich. He finds a whole bunch of diamonds, actually. And he's like, okay, I'm set. I want to retire. But he basically realizes this place is great. It's so isolated. There's no one around. It's really just amazing place to be. I'm just going to build a little cabin out here, and I'm going to live out here in the jungle. So this is what he does. And so this is kind of where he becomes one of the eyewitnesses to the pterodactyl creatures.
Yes.
Let me take one sip of my
Of course.
drink.
Yeah. Of course.
So Reginald Riggs, he is our first-hand eyewitness, and he actually has 2 encounters. And the first encounter is he's just minding his business one day, and he hears this horrendous, terrifying screech. And he looks up and he sees these giant creatures, 3 of them, fly overhead. And it's kind of like this surreal moment where he's like, am I actually seeing this? This cannot be what I think this is. You've been living in the jungle your whole life. You know every creature. And this is one that he's never seen before. And he describes them as bird lizards. He knows that they're supposed to be something that's prehistoric, extinct. And so it's basically that encounter is very, very brief. And then
it's crazy.
Yes. Then a couple years later, he meets a member of the Waka tribe who he actually is kind of an outcast from the tribe himself. But this guy is out in the jungle and gets bit by a poisonous snake. And Reginald Riggs has anti-venom. So Reginald Riggs ends up saving this guy's life. And they end up becoming really, really good friends. And that's kind of where Reginald Riggs learns all about the Waka Yanomami culture. And his friend, his name Ritua, is the Waka outcast, basically is not at all surprised to hear about this strange sighting. And he says, oh, that's the Washo Rue. It's the father of all vampire bats is how we view them in our culture.
Jeepers,
this is something
crazy.
that we know about, that we see. And this is the guy, Ritua, the Waka warrior outcast, who tells Reginald Riggs about the other cryptids, including the Stoa. And the Stoa the story is these things are very, very rare. We don't see them a lot, but they are kind of like a bipedal alligator. And they're very dangerous. And there's even one incident where members of the tribe had a encounter, kind of a battle with one. And they were so impervious to all the arrows, they could not hurt it at all. And it ended up killing a few guys before they could drive it away. And the other cryptid that Reginald Riggs learns about is the Suwa, which the description of it is kind of like a very large creature with a very long neck. But again, this thing is supposed to only live on top of the mountain, which is kind of why Reginald Riggs thinks he's never seen it before, or the Stoa.
Right.
And so then it's probably a number of years later is when Reginald Riggs has encounter number 2 with what he now knows is the Washo Rue, which I believe to be possibly some kind of strange giant bat, which is actually something that they talk about on other tribal legends in
They
Venezuela.
do, yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely like what they've deemed like a cryptid as far as cryptid researchers go. Like this has come up before, so
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, the giant bats are pretty prevalent down in South America. Um,
yeah.
yeah, and I even talked to this wildlife researcher who told me, "Oh, this place is the perfect habitat because this elevated highlands area
Hmm.
is kind of like hard for ground-based creatures to thrive there. But these tepoys, these mountains are just riddled with caves. So it's actually like the perfect place for a bat species to
Hmm.
survive, and actually
Yes.
very likely there's plenty of undetected species.
Oh,
So
without a doubt, without a
yes,
doubt. And I mean, you can even get into under the mountain. I mean, if you get
yeah,
really funky, there are researchers out there that believe that all these ancient flat tops are actually old trees back from ancient
yes.
times. So who knows how far down a root system goes or old roots, but that would be maybe tunnel systems. Now, another
Oh,
theory, but an interesting one. I just wanted to put up a couple, one comment and a couple questions.
yeah.
One, Mish, who's in Australia, by the way, says, my daughter would always say that we had one chasing our car when we drove everywhere. She was about 3, and she still loves them. The people back in Australia, again, they've got big flat top out there as well. So
Yeah.
that's a possibility. Now, Patsy has a
Wow.
couple of,
Interesting.
yeah. Patsy says, I
That's
studied
cool.
about the Yanomami in my anthropology classes. Do the Yanomami know about Kurupira?
That's a really good question, and that was kind of like one of the things I was trying to discover. But it's basically what I learned is it's so hard to get anyone with direct firsthand knowledge
Mm,
from that tribe because they live this like very isolated lifestyle out
mhm,
there, and this tribe is basically under constant threat from the outside world, from
mm.
disease, from the
Yes.
illegal gold miners.
Hmm.
It's actually like considered kind of an active genocide currently.
Hmm.
And so if you were to ask Yaroslav Mores, he would tell you that when he was there in 1978, he they knew all about this place. Yes, that this was well
Hmm.
known to the people living kind of like in the immediate vicinity. So I
Hmm.
would say I personally believe yes,
Hmm.
but it's been so hard to find
Yeah.
direct sources from this tribe. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, how couldn't you not? I think the locals would know. I mean, some of these are pretty big animals. They need a pretty big space. Somewhere along the line, there's going to be something in the oral history, which comes to this question. She also expands by saying, why haven't the creatures migrated? Do they instinctively know that this is their safe place?
I would say so. My theory about Kurupira in particular, and this is what you look when you find it on the map. It's the spring of uh, 4 major river systems, in
Hmm.
particular the Orinoco, the springs of the Orinoco. They have renamed it a couple different names, this mountain, but
Hmm.
I would say it's basically like the perfect spot for wildlife because
Hmm.
water sources emanating in basically every cardinal direction. You got the Orinoco, the
Hmm.
Cachemani, and so I do not think these cryptids are only existing in Kurupira. I think
Hmm.
Kurupira is probably a little too small, and it just doesn't make sense. But I would say if you look at it from like an ecological standpoint, this has to be like the place for wildlife for
Hmm.
hundreds of miles because this is where the water is. The
Hmm.
water sources are concentrated in this one spot. So
Hmm.
yeah, no, that's a good question. And
Hmm.
when I was researching, I definitely expanded the search zone and tried to find more reports of these things from all
Hmm.
over.
Yeah,
which
because they're known in the Amazon basin, near Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Peru. There's been apparently, because I'm not the researcher, I'm just trying to prepare for my conversation with you. But apparently that there have been sightings in these areas as well, anywhere within the
mhm,
Amazon basin. A good
exactly, yes.
place to disappear, right?
These creatures, if they are real, they
Hmm.
could exist anywhere in the Amazon rainforest or up in Venezuela, the
Yes.
Guayana highlands. So
Hmm.
I don't like. I do think Kurupira had to have been a major hotspot. Maybe
Hmm.
not anymore. Like I don't even know. Um, Regarding the stoa, there's not really much out there about this kind of thing. Like there's a
Hmm.
couple reports, but
Hmm.
that's about it. And there's actually, funny enough, there's a bunch of reports, like a lot of reports of these sauropod type dinosaurs, though, which would be
Hmm.
the ones with like the long necks
Yes.
that are the vegetarians.
Yes.
Those are kind of super common in the Amazon, and
Amazing to me because they're so big.
they seem to be the one that if I were to put my money on it, I would say that one has to be real because the doctor I spoke to, once again, my main exclusive source in my book,
Hmm.
this doctor, yeah, he was talking to the tribe living right there who said they have creatures the size of whales that will knock down the trees. They are so big.
Mm.
So,
Yes,
that's very interesting to me. Like who knows what
that
that's
is.
talking about.
And those seem to be the same ones that are being seen in the Congo area. And again, I say that National Geographic just in February did an article on this, and there's been like a rash of dinosaur sightings out that way within again the Congo basin. So there must
Hmm.
be something with the type of environment,
Well, yeah,
and
I sorry, go ahead.
no, I say, the
Yeah.
concern they're thinking, because this is a story that's been going on for centuries, but now with deforestation, which I'm thinking is also similar in the Amazon, because this is also happening in the Amazon. Is it pushing them all into one area? And is it why we're seeing them a little more, a little harder to hide in some spots?
Well, yeah, I think if you like think about what we know about sauropod dinosaurs,
Hmm.
is a lot of people are saying these things were so big
Hmm.
they had spent a lot of their lives in the water, and that's what people say about the Mokele Mbembe from the Congo. They
Hmm.
say this is the stopper of the rivers. It
Hmm.
People will always see it in or right nearby the water. So
Yes.
that
Yes.
might be why these jungle environments are kind of like the perfect habitat for one of
Hmm.
these things to have survived.
The humidity as well, right?
Yes,
Yes. Right.
yes.
Mish and Patsy were both wondering about the Mothman because people have called the Mothman look like technically more like a giant bat. Do you think there's a correlation there? Because it's been seen everywhere, this thing.
The Mothman, I'm not quite sure if the Mothman is in South America. Maybe he has been seen in South America, but
Well, Virginia, it's
I
been
don't.
seen all over the world, so hard to say.
Yes, I'm not really sure if the things that I'm researching
Yes,
are similar to Mothman. They could be.
yes, right.
Like I kind of like to go with
So,
sometimes dinosaurs seem a little far fetched to me,
from,
but I like to think,
yeah,
is there some kind of creature that was from, let's say, the last ice age that
yes.
went extinct like 13,000 years ago?
Hmm.
And yeah, there is one in here. Let me see if I can find a picture. The Macrochania, and that's
Yep.
one that lived in the
Yeah.
ice age
Yes.
that kind of
Hmm.
fits the description. Like this is a very large creature with a long neck, long
Hmm.
kind of.
Hmm.
I guess it doesn't have a tail, but it
Yes.
could be something along those lines. Like
Hmm.
we're talking about some of these South American megafauna. or Ice Age megafauna that
Yes.
could very well still be alive. Yes.
Like misidentification, just maybe not identifying them properly, mixing up what people think they are and what they really are. Z-Sun, hello. Where is Kurupira geographically situated exactly, if you can?
All right. So, Kurupira, it is situated right on the border of Brazil and Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
And it is also, if you look on the map, the Amazonian states of Roraima and
Mm-hmm.
Amazonas. That's another border between two states that intersects the border of the two countries.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can imagine, it's kind of like a cross right there, where the two states, that line connects with the two countries.
Mm-hmm.
And to put it more in plain terms, it's basically, you could say in Brazil, it's right situated in between the Tapira-Peco Mountains
Mm-hmm.
and the Parima Mountains,
Mm-hmm.
which that was one of the things Yaroslav Mores was saying, that he found it on older maps labeled Kurupira.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to find some more of these maps by going on what's called the David Rumsey Archive. And that's an archive of old maps.
Mm-hmm.
And you can search by text on the maps. And I found a whole bunch of hits for, it's usually called Serra Kurupira.
Mm-hmm.
And it exists right there in between the Parima Mountains and the Tapira-Peco Mountains. You could say it's part of those mountains,
Mm-hmm.
but it's kind of a distinct formation. And yeah, it is. That was something I was able to definitely vindicate Yaroslav Mores, because I guess prior to this book, a lot of people outside the Czech Republic kind of thought him to be a little bit of a fraud. And they're like, this place never existed on any map. But I was able to prove it does. It's real, and it's exactly where he said it was. Yeah.
It's so fascinating. I would think, I could see why they would be there, and it's pretty isolated. I don't imagine that it's getting an influx of people. Mind you, maybe now it will, that people have read your book. Let's go to Kurupira.
Please don't try to go there, guys. Like, please don't. Like, you will die. Like, this is what Jose Miguel Perez Gomez told me when I asked him about it. He's like, do not go there. This is so incredibly dangerous. Like, it's a war zone these days. Like, the South American, the Brazilian army has launched a military campaign against these illegal gold miners. They literally just drop bombs. It's not somewhere you want to go.
Well, it's pretty protected by military as well, from what you're saying. There's a base there, and they're really watching the area as well. I have no doubt that they're very well aware of what is here.
Well,
like the whole Jurassic world,
That was one of the things. Yaroslav Mores was convinced that there was some kind of, let's call it a conspiracy, and really, like, that's the real reason the governments tried to keep everyone out of this place, because it almost doesn't make sense. We have this giant national park that the Venezuelan military says no one is allowed in here. And it's like, why not? Like, there's nothing that's supposed to be there, right?
Yes.
So I guess if you want to go along that line of thinking, when Yaroslav Mores visited this area, the closest settlement to Kurupira was a missionary settlement called Porto da Maloca. And this was only about 25 miles away. It does not exist anymore. It's been destroyed. But back in the 1970s, Yaroslav Mores went there and he talked to a missionary. And this missionary told him all sorts of interesting lore about all the cryptids and about all the stuff to know. And one of the things this missionary told Yaroslav Mores was about a creature called the Rakahashi. And this thing, it's the gold miners called it the devil of the green hell,
Mm-hmm.
and it was supposed to be a kind of skinny, slender creature with very large black eyes, no real facial features, and its skin was kind of like scaly, and it had on its legs, on its hands, 4 claws, and its feet had 3 toes. And so this kind of like conjures up in your mind immediately sort of a gray alien is what I
Yeah, or a giant
thought about
sloth.
it.
No, it's true. Yeah,
Excuse me.
no, for sure.
So
Yeah.
I was digging into that one a little bit because I thought that was kind of strange and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like we all know, Brazil. Well, maybe we don't all know, but it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty well known that Brazil is kind of a UFO hotspot.
It
Like we have the
is. Chile,
Varginha,
Argentina, Peru, all of
all
it.
of South America, you could
Yes.
say.
Yes.
And what I found really interesting is in the Varginha, Brazil
Mm.
event where supposedly some UFOs crash landed, and the townspeople started seeing these alien type creatures walking around.
Yes.
An old Coast to Coast episode was talking about a ufologist went to the hospital and interviewed a doctor who also told him when they autopsied the alien bodies, they also, what do you know, had 4 fingers and 3 toes. And when I read that, I was like, immediately, that sounds exactly like these Rakahashi.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think every single pop culture depiction of a gray alien has the same amount of digits. So that kind of makes you wonder,
Mm-hmm.
is it possible there's some sort of extraterrestrial base at this location? And what I also thought was
Yes.
interesting was, well, I decided to translate this word because the Washoe Railway, which was a pterodactyl,
Mm-hmm.
does translate if you go into the dictionary of the Yanomami as a father of all the vampire bats. And so it turns out when you translate the word Hashi, Raka means your life force energy, and Hashi is a verb which means to drain or to make dry. So basically, when you think about that, that means basically like a soul drinker or something that will
Life force.
drain your
Life force.
like a
Yeah.
vampiric entity.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of thought that was very bizarre that you have this tribe kind of out in the middle of the nowhere give that description to this entity when
Well,
that
blood
kind of
is
like,
life, right? Blood is life.
I mean, it kind of in my mind correlates to what people say about the
Mhm.
gray aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sure you've heard people say that the gray aliens are interested in your soul, and that their only reason they abduct people is to hybridize themselves and gain access to your soul.
There's so
So,
many theories. There's so many different races. It's hard to pinpoint gray
yes,
specifically. There are many types of grays as well, right? So I don't
right.
know. I mean, I've had a great experience. I'm still here.
Mm,
I think I'm intact.
wow.
Fingers crossed. you know. No, but it is interesting because you are in an area that is very well known for UFO sightings, and not just that. I mean, you have extraterrestrial presence that have been there going back hundreds, couple thousand years, 1,500 years. I mean, the ancients emulated what they saw, and there have been petroglyphs with dinosaurs. Right, and just in
Yes.
the last couple thousand years, if maybe again 1,500,000 years. Look at the ancient monuments throughout South America that depict certain things like reptiles, reptilians, greys, all kinds of things. So there's definitely something to all of that, and what you're saying. There's definitely correlations.
Yes, I mean, here's one for you. Tom DeLonge, the Blink-182 to the Stars Academy. He's made some weird statements like, if you want to know what's going on with UFOs, you got to look in some of these South American mountain ranges.
Yes.
And I don't know. I do think there could be some credence to this idea of there being secret underground bases out there,
Yes.
especially in some of these mountains or mountain ranges, if you think about it. So, yeah, you are right that South America is basically a paranormal UFO wonderland. Like, there's so much of that, and going back thousands of years in like petroglyphs or like the Inca cultures, the Maya cultures, all of it,
Yes.
in my opinion.
Yes.
So
No,
it's
I
very
agree with you.
fascinating.
Yes, I agree with you. So can we explore this theory? And I say theory because it is one that gets talked about with in just the field of cryptids, not even necessarily just your field of dinosaur research. What about portals? Dimensional, multiverses, things kind of popping in and out. I mean, remote viewers have seen things even like dragons. They've tapped in and they've seen dinosaurs. They've tapped in and seen crazy things. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm very glad you asked me that question because
I'm funny like that.
that was like one of the things I was curious. Like, what if people aren't seeing dinosaurs that survived millions of years? What if there's some kind of like time portal phenomenon? And I was able to connect it specifically to get this another cryptid that is supposed to be at Kurupira, which was described to Yaroslav Mares again in 1978 by this missionary at Porto da Maloca, and this one is one that he called the Shikiri, which kind of translates as a bird of terror. And that's what the description was. It's a giant bird that has like it's flightless. It cannot fly, and it kind of looks like an ostrich, but it's
like
a
an
lot
ostrich.
bigger.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot bigger. And the Yanomami tribe supposedly saw this thing, and it's kind of like another dangerous one that you don't want to mess with. And this missionary, it's kind of funny, he kind of like regarded it as nonsense. He's like, this is just like a boogeyman. It's like a Yanomami fairy tale. But I thought it was really interesting because obviously, like, the description does perfectly match the supposedly extinct creatures that we call terror birds, which were basically exactly like I'm describing, like an ostrich on steroids. Like, these terror birds were huge, and they had like the most terrifying beaks as well. They're just kind of like the apex predator in the Americas for millions and millions of years. And the only other report of a terror bird cryptid that I could find was none other than Washington State at Mount Adams. And this report, it was also kind of like backed up by Native American mythology. They supposedly talk about it in their tribal lore. The tribe, I forget which tribe, but the one that lived in that part of Washington. And I thought that was really interesting because in my mind, I find it a little bit hard to think that in Washington, like a couple hours from me, there's a surviving terror bird. And so it made me think like a whole population of these things, people would notice them, I think.
Yeah, I would think so.
So yeah. You gotta think Mount Adams was the location of this other sighting. And Mount Adams, Washington is kind of a very, very well-known hotspot for UFO activity. And in particular, you have the ranch there called Isetti Ranch, which is the enlightened contact with extraterrestrial intelligence.
Again.
And they will tell you that there is a portal and that these UFOs are coming through this portal from, I don't know if it's another dimension or outer space, but that's the reason why they have so much of this activity. And like you can look up a lot of these videos of the UFOs on Mount Adams. They usually are like orbs, like glowing orbs that move in a very strange way.
Those are often seen around cryptids and UFOs and things like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you gotta wonder. I mean, there's so many people who have seen this. Like, I could name drop a very well-known people who have been to Isetti Ranch, seen these things, such Jimmy Church, Billy Carson.
Yes,
those guys both swear on their lives they've seen very strange UFOs. And so, I was thinking about this portal, and it is very well possible that these portals. I did talk to another researcher named Mike Ricksecker, who talks about time portals.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wrote the book about time travel, and his whole theory is that a lot of paranormal phenomenon aren't actually ghosts, but are actually time windows or time portals. And people,
breakthroughs. Yeah.
Yes.
As well.
And so Mike Ricksecker did tell me, like, you got to think about the geology of these mountains. They're basically these massive rock structures that actually generate their own electric charge.
Yes.
And then you have water running through them.
That's right.
So, according to Mike Ricksecker, it is possible to see a extinct prehistoric creature through one of these time windows. His whole theory revolves around frequency.
Yes.
And he says, yes, you have to be aligned on a frequency level between the two moments in time. But
very
as long
quantum.
as that, yes. I don't really quite understand it perfectly.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, stone resonates. It holds memory. It holds. You often get things like, I'll give an example: cathedrals, churches. I've traveled many parts of the world, been to many amazing medieval structures and ancient structures, and there have been people who have researched it and put recorders in some of these old places, and they can still pick up, let's say, on chanting. Like old monks just chanting, or Knights Templar, same idea. Like it picks up. It's just almost like a record, and it resonates. There are places where stones in the United States, they have like the singing stones, and the mountains, you can actually use it like a xylophone. They have all different frequencies. These big, like round rocks that all sit in this one area. There's a lot to that. But I mean, if we get into looking at portals and such, you're around military bases, really hardcore UFO sightings, extraterrestrial sightings. To me, one, they know how to create portals. It's not hard to create a portal. It's really not, But the ancient people, right? The ancient people would build around natural stargates, power spots. So if they would build around these type of places, I think it would also be natural that animals would know, where portals are. There are some researchers and some remote viewers, for example, that will tell you even just a normal rabbit, like a rabbit, for example, could find a portal and be gone. Like they just seem to have their little ways in and out, to protect themselves if they're being chased, things like that. There's a theory with Bigfoot. And again, it's a theory, right? But let's explore something even a little deeper. What about entrances to inner Earth that have their own ecosystems, and who the heck knows what's down there?
That's one of my favorite subjects.
I love it
100%.
too. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think if you really dive into the whole inner Earth thing, once again, a lot of the supposed entrances are said to be some of these mountains.
Yes.
Like, let's take Mount Shasta, for example.
That's the big
Like, I
one.
think it's really a global phenomenon.
Mhm.
You take Mount Adams once again.
Mhm.
That's where Kenneth Arnold said the UFOs that he saw in 1947 were going to. So why were they going from one mountain to the next mountain?
Exactly.
Um, I mean, I personally really do think there's something to it, especially when you look at like the missing 411,
Oh
and
yes.
you look at the map of all the missing people,
Mhm.
and then you overlay the map of cave systems.
Yes.
I mean, and then go take it a step further, overlay the map of Bigfoot. So I'm not
Mhm.
saying that that's all inner Earth, but like
Yes.
does kind of make
Fit,
sense
doesn't
to
it?
me.
Yeah,
Um,
it does.
I mean, and as far as portals go, again, like I do think to the best of my knowledge, like this isn't like my area of expertise, but
Mhm.
take the Great Pyramid in Egypt. It's been
Let's
proven
do that.
scientifically that it generates a massive electric charge,
That's right.
and electricity definitely that kind of like when you're exposed to that much electromagnetic energy, it
Mhm.
does affect your consciousness. It can cause disorientation, or
Mhm.
it can kind of help you slip into one of these meditative trances.
Mhm.
And if you go along with Mike Ricksecker's theory, it's about your mental frequency.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, these kind of like large mountainous or stone structures or pyramids all will facilitate that effect,
Mhm.
which might kind of explain why these paranormal experiences are very, very common at these
Mhm.
mountains.
Well, I think
Um,
anywhere we are energy. So yes, if we're vibrating at a certain frequency, I've been to the pyramids. I've been to the Great Pyramid. It definitely has
oh,
its
wow.
own frequency going on, but they knew this back, they've known this for a long time. They just started recently talking about it. But if you really dig, you could find the information where they talked about it back in the 70s as
That's
well.
amazing.
So, oh, it is. It's fascinating, just fascinating. But with the mountains, Zisa says portal from one mountain to another in water sounds like the perfect recipe for interdimensional travel. Hmm. Doesn't it though? So,
Hey,
yeah, I mean, again, if you factor all of that in, there's so much about our planet that we are unaware of. We're so hell bent on trying to get to the stars that we don't take the time to research our oceans, which are that go so far down. I mean, there could be all kinds of I mean, dinosaurs still down there swimming along,
yeah.
for sure. I mean,
Um,
they don't ever come to the light.
yeah, yeah. We haven't explored our oceans at all.
Mm-mm,
Like most of
no,
the oceans aren't explored. And
but our cave systems are the same.
the thing about portals also, like for people who think this is all like fantasy, like you have to realize that portals are completely 100% scientifically valid concept. If you really break down the theory of relativity,
Mm-hmm.
basically explains how wormholes work. It's a space, time, and gravity bending,
Yes.
and this isn't some like thing that is woo woo. It's a concept that is well known and well studied, and people believe that
Mm-hmm.
black holes create wormholes from different points in space time.
Mm-hmm.
And moreover than that, it is theoretically like very possible scientifically to create one of these wormholes yourself,
Mm-hmm.
or even a stargate. For example, well-known scientist Eric Davis has written several papers about how to create wormholes or warp drives. If you even want to take it one step further, someone who might be a little bit controversial, but who I think is very, very intelligent, is Ashton Forbes. I'm sure maybe you've heard of that guy.
Yes.
And the MH370 videos, I have been following that guy for over a year, and those videos have not been whatsoever validly debunked. Like, I'm sorry, like all of the supposed debunks are intellectually don't hold up. They're very selective. They don't really encompass the whole thing. So,
but that's
if
what
you really
makes it
want to, like,
interesting.
he also does a really good job breaking down the science of 0-point energy, wormholes, etc., which is something I don't really know too much about myself, but it's very interesting.
Well, I mean, if you look into the old Tartarian lore, you know, where you could draw energy from the ether, which is something that Nikola Tesla talked about and experimented with. It is fascinating. You know, just tap into the ether and draw energy from there. So can you just imagine if you followed just that wormhole, it would be plausible that these stargates and all of this energy could be so easily manipulated, and portals would be popping up everywhere, and they do. People don't realize how easy it is. Just again, like Mike says, like your mindset, your frequency, you know, vibration. You factor in all of these towers that are now up all around us, vibrations going on and things happening, and people are very gifted. I mean, we can project energy like there's nobody's business. Telekinesis, psychokinesis. I mean, the list goes on as to how we can manipulate energy, you know. Question for you from Mish: are ley lines and portals connected in your opinion?
I do think so, yeah. I mean, in my opinion.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Yes, I do think there's a real ley line phenomenon. If you really take a good hard look around the world, there's certain like parallels on the globe that seem to have a lot of really important places all line up. I mean, yeah, and if you want to think about it in terms of portals, I mean, that's kind of the theory is, you know, all these ancient cultures knew about these kind of energy hotspots, and that's why they chose to build a lot of their sacred sites there. So, yeah, I mean, in my opinion, yes, absolutely. There's a huge connection there.
So it leads me to ask you, with the space Kurupira, do you think that, you know, have you mapped to see if there were ley lines within that area and where they went to, and have there been sightings in other parts of the country through mapping these energy lines?
That's a good idea. I have not. I have not done that.
Wouldn't that be cool? Like,
I probably really should do that. That's a really interesting idea.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
mean, you have all these mountains, you know, that connect through ley lines. It would be a curiosity to see, because if the portal theory or the Stargate theory is correct, no, well, not, you know, energy spots rather, it would be interesting to see where they pop up and if there are other sightings reported within these areas.
I mean, I certainly wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, that's a good idea to see.
I'm starting to think it wouldn't be surprising either, you know, or if there are other military bases around.
Well, in Kurupira,
like in these areas, you know,
there actually is several military bases. One of them is like on Google Earth. If you look there is a military base. It doesn't look like much, but once again, maybe it is.
It's all underground. Yeah, right. I mean, I'd like to think that there's still parts of the world that are so untouched that we have these incredible creatures that are still have found a way to transcend time, and still
Well,
exist as opposed to, I mean, portals are awesome too. It's cool to think that they could be just traversing back and forth. But there's sort of something about the lost world lore of knowing that they're still there somehow.
um, yes, I agree with you, and I do actually think in regards to Kurupira,
Mhm.
sure, there could be portals, but
Mm.
I also do think there are creatures.
Mhm.
And the reason, I think that is because Yaroslav Mores, credit goes to him.
Mhm.
But the other sighting that he talked about in one of his books was from the prospector Reginald Riggs, who was his informant, his source, who lived there for many years.
Mhm.
Um, if I could tell you this other
Please.
sighting,
We have lots of
it's
time. Go ahead.
probably one of the craziest cryptid encounters that you could imagine, in my opinion. So, this one is Reginald Riggs. He is living right at Kurupira, and this is after many years after he's seen the pterodactyls for the first time. The second time, once again, he hears this blood curdling screech, and he immediately recognizes this to be the Washoe. Now he knows what it's called,
Mm.
and he hasn't heard this for like 10 years.
Mhm.
But now he's prepared, so he immediately goes and grabs his rifle, and now he slowly makes his way, and he keeps on hearing the screech from the creature. So he makes his way out through the jungle. This time he is very quiet and stealthy, and eventually he peers through the bushes and he sees ahead of him on a giant rocky outcropping, a boulder, this massive creature that once again is kind of like
Mm.
described as a bird lizard. And this time he is pretty close to it,
Mm.
and he gets like a really good look at this thing. It has a massive beak. It has a huge crest on the back of its head. It has just this enormous wingspan, and it's sitting there screeching. And it's at this moment when he realizes, oh my god, I have my rifle. I could actually take a shot right now.
Oof.
And there's this kind of like moment in his diary where his mind is overloaded with so many thoughts. He's like, I'm going to be world famous. Everyone's going to know my
Oof.
name. This is going to be the biggest discovery of all time. But then he kind of like comes back to reality. And he's like, this thing is so big and intimidating. If I don't get a kill shot right away,
Mhm.
I could just anger it. Like, who
And
knows
become
what?
lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and so he ultimately decides, I'm just going to sit here and observe.
Mm.
And so what happens is he hears another screeching in the sky, and another one of these pterodactyls kind of swoops in, and now there's two of them. And so the first one, it takes off, and then they start slowly flying up and circling each other. And he says that he makes the analogy, it's kind of like watching an old World War I movie where you're watching the fighter planes circle each other. Like, that's how big these things seem to be. And
Wow.
they basically they do kind of like dive in, and they're kind of fighting. They attack, and then they clash in the center. They fall, and then they break away before they hit the ground. And this goes on for actually quite some time
Mm.
until finally either the creatures are exhausted or one of them has won the battle, and then they kind of just both fly away into the distance. And
Wow. That must have been
That
a sight
is
to behold.
that is his reported encounter,
Mhm.
and
Now, what year was this?
yeah. So that's the thing. I can't. I want to say it in the 80s.
80s. So that's
And
on a
so
grand
this
scheme of
guy,
time, that's pretty recent.
in all of my research, I do think Yaroslav Mores is a very, very credible person.
Mhm.
He was actually a scientist. He is actually credited with discovering several species of beetle, tiger
Mm.
beetle family.
Mhm.
Yaroslav Mores spent many years studying these creatures, publishing scientific papers. This is a guy who's a academic. He has this academic reputation to uphold.
Mhm.
So I really do think Yaroslav Mores is one of the most credible and
Mhm.
scientifically minded witnesses you could ever hope to have.
Mhm. Yes.
And
Yes.
when it comes to Reginald Riggs, his source, who he published this guy's diary,
Mhm.
Reginald Riggs is not 100% credible in my mind.
Mhm.
And what I
Right.
mean by that is this guy, he does say he never meant or wanted his diary published. It wasn't intended for that. But
Mhm.
this guy is definitely, he's a criminal. He
Mhm.
is definitely, he does very terrible, morally terrible
Mhm.
things to
Mhm.
people at certain points in the
Yes.
diary. He's not
Yes.
necessarily the
Right.
most, I don't know,
Credible
he seems a little bit prone to telling
tall tales.
tall tales, but
Yes.
at the same time, Yaroslav Mores vouches for him. He says, yes, I believe this guy's life story, his
Yes.
experiences out there, and being someone who's been there as well, I really do think this guy.
Well, he's validated some of the sightings, obviously.
Right, and if you really look at the bigger picture,
Mhm.
the Yanomami tribe, the Washoe Railway, is a
Mhm.
real part of their mythology.
Mhm.
Um, the father of all vampire bats is even listed. I did a ton of research trying to find
Mhm.
um, mentions of a Washoe Railway,
Mhm.
and the one mention I did find was in a Yanomami dictionary, and it does have that word, and it is translated as the ancestral spirit of
Mhm.
all vampire bats.
Yes.
So this is a real
Interesting.
thing in their culture and their mythology that you
Mhm.
can verify. So
Mhm.
if you
Yeah.
really look at the overall big picture, it does
Mhm.
have a lot of validity to it, in my opinion.
Yes. My dear friend,
Excuse
Dr.
me.
Jana Greenberg asks, what kind of a scientist was Yaroslav Meres?
So he was an entomologist. He studied beetles, and it is noted in his books that whenever he was out there in the jungle, he would just basically stop the whole expedition to stare at bugs, and then everyone would get mad at him and tell him to keep going. And he did
Yeah.
collect a
Mhm.
bunch of cool bugs for the
Mhm.
museum in Sao Paulo, Brazil,
Mhm.
and they were really impressed by some of his specimens.
Mhm.
And yeah, if you do look him up, look him. I do believe he has published several scientific papers as well as written books exclusively about beetles. That's what
Crazy.
he was into. So
Crazy.
yeah,
Crazy. Oh my
yeah.
goodness. Okay, random question by Z Sun. He says he's totally off the wall question, not related. I see a white cat around you. Does it mean anything to you?
What do you mean, a white cat?
A
Sorry,
white cat. Yeah. I'm
um,
guessing. I'm guessing a spirit cat.
a white cat.
Yeah.
I do love cats. I can't really say a white cat in particular. I mean, I did used to have a white cat growing up, but
Maybe
I would
that's
be
it.
surprised if
Maybe the white cat's still around you.
maybe.
Could be. Because I like that he did field work. It makes it more valid. Yeah, I think so.
Well, that's the thing about him is he is actually deceased. He's no longer with us, and
Yeah.
it's really like strange. He did die
Mm-hmm.
just a couple years before I heard about him,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was like, man, if he was still alive, I would interview him. I would get all the best details, but as fate would have it, he's not with us anymore. So it's kind of up to us now to follow his footsteps.
Maybe you just have, maybe somebody will come up, in modern times who have had sightings and be able to reach out to you with more witness accounts. The thing is now is we have the technology. Everybody's got a camera phone for the most part, cameras, LiDAR. There's so many different things, satellite imaging, photography, video. I mean, they have found so many ancient cities and ruins, and just through this technology that we now have. So you never know what will surface. What I find interesting, and I will ask you in closing, is a lot of people are catching dinosaurs on security cameras, just these little guys. What are your thoughts on that?
I have seen one on probably a paranormal caught on camera that showed a little
right,
little dude dinosaur zoom past. It looked extremely real to me, but I cannot say. I can't really say for sure. Excuse me, if that was actually real. Like some of these fake videos can be pretty good nowadays.
Can be pretty good, especially now we're in the age of AI. But it is interesting that there are cameras everywhere. We live in the age of Big Brother, right? Cameras everywhere. So it's interesting to me that you have, these little cryptids here and there just popping up randomly, right? So
yeah, I will say, like, if you want to really go to something that I will say is probably a dinosaur and probably very real, it would be Champ once again.
Yes.
I bring this up all the time on podcasts, but the reason why Champ in Lake Champlain, Virginia is the one that is 100% real. It's actually proven that it's real. The only question now is, what is it? Because they have recorded, like, different people, mind you, have recorded something in Lake Champlain making echolocation. And I think Monster Quest, their documentary, was probably one of the first ones who recorded it. And there's someone named Katie Elizabeth, who's awesome, who just drops microphones in the lake and records this thing too. And actually, I'll throw this out there. If you guys look up a show called Paranormal Declassified on Discovery Plus.
Yeah, I've seen
they
it.
get it too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
oh, really? Not many people know about that one, but
that
guy got
it goes back.
Champ too.
Yes.
And he took his recording to a forensic audio person who was basically like a crime scene forensic person who works with the police. And they're like, compare this sound in your database. And there was only one direct match, which was a beluga whale. And in my opinion, that's really weird because I do think Champ could be some kind of freshwater dolphin or beluga whale. He doesn't necessarily have to be a plesiosaur. But it's very strange because, like in the Amazon, there are freshwater dolphins, actually, the pink dolphins.
Yes.
But those things are extremely sociable. Like most dolphins, they will come right up to a human being, and Champ stays hidden. Like, people do see him, pretty often, but Champ is not something that will come right up to you and make
No.
itself known usually. So
You should look up
yeah.
Ogopogo, because there was video footage taken way back in the day, so on actual film, that they have not been able to debunk. They actually see the footage and said, this is credible. We can't see that
Yeah.
it's been messed with. And that's in Lake Okanagan in British Columbia, up in Canada. And they've not been able to debunk that one, which I like that.
Yes.
I like that. It's still, yes, it's just one of those things. But I think Monster Quest has looked into that one as well. So there's a couple out there that are, to me, if it leaves a question mark, like where it's not definitive, oh no, that's nothing. If it leaves a question mark and it's kind of says, yeah, this could be something, then at least it's worth further exploration. And
yes, I think I've seen the Ogopogo footage, which is like the humps in the water, if I'm correct.
Yes, it went on for quite some time, which is,
I don't know. I cannot explain that one either.
Yeah, apparently nobody can at this point. So it is very fascinating. So as we slowly come up now to the 90-minute mark, coming up to the top of the hour, where can people get your books, and what do you have coming up?
Excuse me. I am recovering from a cold here.
Oh, it's hard to talk for this long.
A little bit.
Yeah.
So my books are all exclusively on Amazon.com.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to look up my name, well, that might be actually a little bit more difficult.
There we go.
Ben Tejada-Ingram, TEJADA-INGRAM. Or you can just simply type in The Mysteries of Kurupira, Kurupira, is where you can find all of my work. And
all of your links are in the show description, by the way, to all each of your books. It's all there. Yes.
That's where to go. Yes. And I guess me and my couple of friends of mine have a ghost hunting YouTube channel. If you want to look up on YouTube, Anomaly Hunters, we are trying to get that off the ground a little bit more. It's kind of just been a little bit of a just side hobby, not really super serious about it, even though we have had some experiences that definitely have freaked us out.
Yes.
We are trying to do more like professional stuff on there in the future. So we definitely, if you guys look at Anomaly Hunters on YouTube, that's another place to find some of the stuff I'm doing. And probably now, I don't really have any more books in the works currently. I'm bouncing around some ideas, but nothing too solid. So probably for now, I might do more of the ghost hunting videos.
Oh boy!
So
wow.
That might be what's in the future for me.
Well, I love that. If you've got a story or two that has sort of really scared you good, I might just have a show that you can go on and tell your story on.
Well, yes, if you ever want my two other friends who do it with me, definitely would love to come on as well.
Yeah, well, this is a show that it's brand new. It's with some of the producers that I used to film with, and they've got a new show called Fright of My Life, and they are interviewing people who want to tell their story. If you think it falls under the Fright of My Life category, I might be able to hook you up. If friends too, if they want to. Yeah. So I can definitely do that for you. That's an easy one. But
that would be amazing. That would be fantastic.
Okay. Well,
Be awesome.
I will fire your email off to them, and they will definitely contact you, and you can
Thank you.
go from there. Then it's between you and them, and it'd be a lot of fun. I really had a great time. This was just awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, people have a hard time getting their head around dinosaurs still being around. Yet it's easy for them to think, well, I can accept cryptids. So it's just like, okay, I believe there's so much of our planet that is unexplored. I also believe that things do manage to make their way here interdimensionally, through different avenues. And believe it or don't believe it, I think it's good to have an open mind with it because people are seeing something. There's something to be said for the fact that you have credible witnesses as well. And you start getting into oral history. Indigenous people from all over the world have their share of oral history that pertain to different creatures that have been within their ancestry for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So there's something to it, right? And I'm hoping that you will come back and that we can schedule you to talk about one or two of your other books. I think it'd be outstanding.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, to your final point there, um,
Yes.
I would love to come back on. Thank you.
Oh,
But
I love it.
yes, people. I just want to leave it with this, if that's
Of
okay.
course. Of course.
People think that today in our modern world we have explored everything. There's nothing left to uncover. But in reality, there are still so many places all around the world
Mhm.
where no one has literally ever set foot there. Just
Mm.
because it has been like a satellite on Google Earth, you can zoom in on it, doesn't mean that anyone has actually set foot on these places. Like there
Mhm.
are still literal lost worlds that are just waiting to be explored.
Mhm.
And I'm not just saying that offhand. I'm actually saying there's examples that we can point to, such as in Vietnam in the early 90s. This is one of my favorite examples. There was a very isolated pocket of rainforest
Mhm.
that was protected in the war, but it was also a place that had such rainfall that even the local people didn't go there. It wasn't until the 1990s that scientists and outsiders, for the first time ever, went into this forest and they discovered probably the one of the most amazing species discoveries of the last century, which was
Mhm.
the Asian unicorn, as some people call it, the Vu Quang ox, which is the probably the only large mammal to be discovered in probably the last 50 years before that.
Wow.
And when
That's
I say
fantastic.
large, it's
Amazing.
it looks like a deer, but
Mhm.
it's bigger than a deer, and it's actually a member of the bovine family. And it has horns. It's
Mhm.
a very like strange, amazing creature. And this thing was something that until the year 1990, no one had ever seen before or
See?
even knew existed.
Right there. That's a perfect example of a new, not a new species, but for us, a new species that's been
Yes,
discovered. So we have to keep
exactly.
that open mind. I love it. This has just been so much fun. And hang tight, please, as I close off. So, everybody in chat, I always say you guys make it that much more fun. I thank you all for being here tonight. Those who are listening all around the globe, everybody participating in the chat room, everybody watching on Roku, Rumble, X, and of course, all the YouTube platforms and such. I thank you all for being here. Big thank you to Ben Tejada-Ingram. Just amazing information. Thank you. Thank you. Tomorrow night, guys, Sean Kelly, a fellow UPRN host of Into the Night, will be joining me to discuss high strangeness in Pennsylvania, which is one of my favorite states. So I'm dying just to get into all the stories that he has. And Tuesday on our sister show, Beyond the Outer Realm, Carol Ann Idarola joins for another uncensored segment of Forbidden Knowledge and Conspiracies. We all know how that goes, don't we? Yeah, private mode. That's exactly where that goes. But it's going to be a lot of fun. So tune in and we shall see you all tomorrow night. Thank you. And Richard, you did miss us, darling. You'll have to, hopefully, we'll see you in tomorrow night, but you may have to catch the archive. Please and thank you. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share. I do respond to all comments. I do. So thank you all and good night.